Walk away, go on.
Every day, somewhere in the world, a person or family are beginning a new friendship with a pet. 3 years ago, I lost my childhood friend, a wonderfully placid miniature horse named Plume. She wasn't the first pet I had lost, and I had grief for them each in turn, but Plume's death hit me hard because we'd grown up together. This isn't a story just about me. It's a story shared by people everywhere who have to say goodbye to these special friends and family members. Life can seem incomplete. For many people, explaining this to those around can be hard because, after all, it's just an animal, isn't it?
One of the things about having a companion animal is that they give you unconditional love. They don't worry about your personality or what you've done. They just know you're there and they love you for being you. And I think that's what makes companion animals special. You can't say that of all humans.
Good morning, Stanley House Vets at Colne. Gemma speaking. Yes, that's absolutely fine. So I can certainly pop it on the prescriptions list for you, Mrs. Johnson. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we'll be all right. If we do need to see you, then we'll give you a ring and we'll get you in as soon as we can. But I think we're going to be all right.
I started working as a vet in 1985. When immediately that I graduated, I went straight to work within a week or two of graduating, and I've worked ever since. It was a natural thing to do for a farmer's son, really, a little bit. One of the reasons I didn't want to be a farmer was because I found it quite routine, and the same things happened day after day after day after day after day, which didn't really suit me. And the most interesting day was when the vet came. The vet would come and spend the day and do different things, and the conversations were different, and they were very unlike the people I met on the farm. I lost my dog almost 3 years ago exactly now, and I put him to sleep myself. I knew it was coming, it was an incremental disease, we planned it, and he was only getting incrementally worse. And we didn't do it because it was a crisis, we did it because there was nothing but misery coming. Put my cat to sleep about 2 months ago, and I was desperately upset. And that was because I sort of knew it was coming, and he was 19 and a half years old. But on the day that it deteriorated, it was a day when we were, as a family, immensely busy. It was my wife's birthday, we had the house full of family and guests. And it deteriorated very quickly. It was quite clear to my wife and I, first thing in the morning, that it had to be done that day. The last day we wanted to do it. We looked at each other, we knew we couldn't put it off for 24 hours. It would have been wrong, because if today's the day, today's the day. Tomorrow is a day too late. That will mirror the experience of some clients. They don't have much time to think. So sometimes in 15 or 20 minutes, they've gone from having an animal who thinks a bit poorly to having an animal that's dead. That can be massively difficult to cope with, and I found it difficult to cope with. I was very surprised how viscerally upset I was. It was because I didn't have time to process what I was going to do. And it is a very sudden, you're alive, you're not, you're alive, you're not. And the not bit thought, oh, that was quick. And even For me, it was very difficult. I don't think anybody who hasn't directly had that experience could quite really understand. It's an unusual feeling how animals creep into your soul and become part of your life. And you don't have to be a madcap person to feel like that. You know, I have farmers that crumble when their animals are put to sleep. I have tarmackers and bricklayers and welders and district nurses and consultant anaesthetists that crumble when their animals are put to sleep.
Good morning, Hugo. Are you getting up today? Good morning, handsome. Wake up. Wake up. Come on. Get up, Hughes. Come on. Wakey, wakey. Wakey, wakey. Rise and shine. Yay! Good morning, everyone.
I'd noticed Hugo had lost a bit of weight and I could see his spine. She just said she'd be honest with me and just say she didn't think it were good, and it were only when his bloods come back he were absolutely riddled in, well, it was his white blood cell count, so I suppose it were leukemia, and they had to put him to sleep. They said they'd put Hugo to sleep while he still had his cannula in and while he was still asleep, obviously from being sedated, and they carried him in and then he woke up. And I always think to myself, is he waking up to say, don't let me go, Mum, or did he wake up to say goodbye? And then they put the drug in to put Hugo to sleep, and even before they took the needle out, he'd gone. This is, if you can see, my last cuddles with Hugo, and then when he were gone. It surprised me how much it affected me, even though it wasn't around. I've no children, so he was like my little boy. He was like my son. I just couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I didn't speak to anybody. And I've just started having counselling yesterday where we spoke about Hugo and the impact it has on my new rescue Rio, where I'm so overprotective of her.
How's 2:10 sound for you? Yeah.
I was the president of the British Veterinary Association, and I wrote a blog about how I make decisions, how I talk to clients about euthanasia, end-of-life decisions. And I wrote this blog, and it was picked up by a lad that I know, and he got in touch with me and said, you might not know this, Robin, but I'm a Samaritan. And I've read your blog, which I thought was interesting, and he said, and you will be surprised how many calls we get about pet loss. It meant that these people obviously weren't coping, and I thought we made people cope. So reconciliation with the clinical side of things is no help at all if you're just lonely and grief-stricken and bereft because your mate's gone. So we decided then that we would try and work alongside them to see if there's anything we could do to help people.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm a consultant psychotherapist and a horse owner and dog owner and cat owner and any other furry thing that lands at my doorstep. When I saw the advert for the focus group from a professional side, I'm really thinking at last somebody is actually taking notice of the impact of losing a pet can have.
So my name's Chloe. I lost my dog quite suddenly, so I never got a chance to say bye or anything. But since then, I got diagnosed with depression from losing my dog. So I think that's what people don't understand, because I was embarrassed to say I had depression from losing a dog. So
You shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't.
How long have you had it?
9 years.
Yeah, it's a long time. It is when you're young as well, because so much happens. It's like there are that many changes that all get tied in with it, don't they?
And I think other people just need to realise, you know, people who say it's just a dog, and obviously it's not, is it, to you?
No.
It's separating sadness from guilt. You're bound to be sad if you've lost a close friend. But there's absolutely no grounds whatsoever for a client who has to make that decision to have an animal put to sleep to ever feel guilty about it, partly because they do it on our say-so, largely speaking. But people do.
I've got a bit of a different guilt. My mum has severe dementia now, but she used to have a dog. He'd gone blind and deaf and he wasn't doing well. And I said to her, I think he needs to be put to sleep. And she found it so hard for me saying that to her, but it was what I believed was the best for the dog. And my mum wouldn't come into the vets with me, so I had to be there, and I've lived with that guilt.
Yes.
And it's just so hard living with that when it's someone else's pet, even though I've known him.
Yes.
I got him for my mum.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a different guilt that you can
But I think
deal
that's really
with.
brave to be able to do that when it's not yours. Having to say that and, like you said, take somebody's pet away who really loved it, but that's... I mean, I'd say to you, I feel guilty about... Don't feel guilty about that, because you did the right thing.
The sadness is an emotion.
Yeah.
The guilt is a core belief, and it's a negative core belief. When your core belief system is triggered, you know, that can lead to guilt and depression and reactions. Everybody will feel some degree of guilt because they will feel that they've had to make that decision. Sometimes in the medical setting, people have to make a decision guided by the doctors about turning machines off and withdrawing treatment for humans, but they probably feel more supported afterwards, and there's more aftercare for people who have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
When it's a pet, they will feel that they've had to make a lonely decision. So maybe that's at the beginning of pet ownership and actually giving people permission to feel guilty.
Exactly.
I want people to understand and realise there are people out there for you. There are charities, there are organisations, and you never need to be alone.
Here at the Pet Bereavement Support Service, we're all very passionate about raising awareness of the impact that pet loss can have on pet owners. People's emotions and feelings that go hand in hand with the loss of their pet are just swept under the carpet, they're not acknowledged. So by having services such as the PBSS that give people the opportunity to discuss how they're feeling can really help people work through their grief.
Paul, sit down. No, not roll over. Not roll over. My little dog Harry, who's with me today, was bought as a companion to my last Great Dane, George. Sadly, my life started to fall apart in 2014. My beloved dog, George, was diagnosed with bone cancer. He didn't survive. Soon after that, my husband was diagnosed with cancer and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And my husband didn't make it. And I was left with Harry, and he became very important to me. He saw me through the rough patch. Not the only person to lose a husband, but I felt like it was the only person who had. And I think my experience has given me some empathy with people. I want to be able to help them. He thinks he's got a roll over. The kind of people who access the service do vary. But so many callers have said to me, I've grieved more about my dog going than I did about my partner. You know, it's that important to them. And the kind of response they get from friends and neighbours who are not empathetic is, well, it's only a dog, or it's only a cat, or it's only a rabbit. You know, come on, pull yourself together. And they can't.
It's a human frailty that we see events that have happened, but when we look back and see that they were inevitable, we then immediately think, oh, well, I could have seen it coming. But that's not true. And when you wake up in the morning, you knew this dog had this disease. So every day you get up. This is going to make everybody very upset, but is today the day I decide to kill my animal? Because that's how visceral it is for you to do.
It is,
we call it euthanasia and put to sleep, but in your heart, when you're struggling with it, that's what you're thinking. And that is a hell of a thing to decide to do. There's 2 questions in the morning. We just don't ask the second one, and we don't think. And the second one is, I don't know how rough you feel, but I've decided you can put up with it for another day. Now that is a very, very powerful question. Do you know what euthanasia means from the Greek? It's a good death. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And that's what we're aiming for.
Wait, Rio. People say it gets easier with time. That pain is always there, but you learn to cope with that pain. And like I say, there is help out there. I'm having counselling now. I still get upset when I speak about Hugo. The pain will never go away. But I become a volunteer for the Edward Foundation, where I got Rio from, who've been fantastic. Got Bruno in foster, and he's going to be staying with us permanently. So my life has completely changed, really, now. Having Bruno and Rio, and the support of the Edward Foundation as well. If you look at what I do now and what I've got, if I didn't have Hugo, I would never have developed such a interest and love for bulldogs, so I wouldn't be doing what I am today. So obviously we're meant to be.
And so life goes on. We continue to love and care for the other 4-legged friends in our lives, all the while knowing that the pain we have felt will return at some point, when they too are no longer with us. However we choose to remember the ones we've lost in life, it should never be with guilt. Cherish the memories and be proud of this special bond we share with our pets and they with us.